And now it's time for Church Chat.
Welcome, friends, to another edition of Church Chat. I'm Laurie Robertson, standing in for Father Jesse, who's on vacation. And I welcome today the Rev'd Margaret Tandy, who's here to talk with us about what's going on in her area of the world, which is the Perrytown, St. Paul's Perrytown Church. And what's up with her and her garden and how are things doing? So, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Laurie. Yeah, managing quite nicely and enjoying my garden. So I thought I'd come out and bring my computer outside, which I don't do very often. But you really can't see all my flowers. I don't know if you can see a little bit of color on that side.
Lovely.
But what's significant for Perrytown is what's right behind me. And if Kathy Wilson is watching, please pay attention. So I'll mention that in a minute.
Lovely. So do you have any cannabis hiding amongst the tomato plants? Apparently they're a good disguise.
Do I have any?
Cannabis?
See, I didn't even understand what you said. No, I don't.
Oh. No, I've
Not
been
a
told
word
that
in my
they're
vocabulary, no.
a good disguise. If you plant the cannabis in between the tomatoes, other people might not see them and steal them.
I'll keep it in mind. Yes.
That's our levity for this morning. All right.
Yes.
So what is St. Paul's Perrytown doing about COVID, and how are you managing services? Do you have plans yet for reopening?
Well, how we've been managing is to keep our parish, all the people that are on internet, linked to the St. John's services. They've really been appreciating that. So we're so thrilled that St. John's was so welcoming and inviting us to do that. We didn't feel we had the capability of doing our own, and it's taken a weight off me as a poor old retired priest, and I didn't know how I was going to learn all the stuff I needed to do it myself. So it's been wonderful to join St. John's for that. And I do have their large group email. It keeps growing. For St. Paul's, we're a small congregation, but the group email would belie that point, because a number of people have asked to be added to it who don't live here, may have lived here before, maybe relatives or friends, and they just want to be linked in. And it's really kind of neat to have that. So that goes out at least once a week with the link to the St. John service, but usually another time during the week with some kind of a message or a bit of encouragement or something funny, something that other parishioners have shared. The parishioners have been wonderful at sharing where they are, what they're doing. We had a lovely photo at one point from one of our parishioners of a new colt that had been born, and it happens to be a small horse to begin with, a mini horse. So the colt of a mini horse is really, really cute. And we all, it put a smile on our face. It was early in the spring, and those kinds of things are quite lovely. I have a few people still who don't have any internet. People have been creative in how they connect to them. First of all, I use snail mail or the telephone. But one of our parishioners, while the service from St. John's is on her computer, she puts her phone beside it and has called another parishioner that doesn't have a computer, and she listens to the whole thing, and so they're worshiping together. And I think you guys are so creative. You don't need me. So it's been wonderful to have that. We haven't seen much of each other. I've seen a few people. If any clergy are ever tempted to think they might be forming the hub of a parish, think again. You find out where the hub is when you're in this kind of a situation. And for us, it's the farm of Kathy and Gord Wilson, because an awful lot of us get our eggs from them. So that we go up and get our eggs. We don't necessarily see each other, but we might see Kathy or Gord. We might be invited for a coffee or a cold drink, distanced, mind you, and have a little visit and catch up on all the news. So if I want to know anything that's going on, Kathy's a good place to go, and she calls me right away when she has anything else. So that kind of thing is really wonderful in the rural communities. You might drive right through these communities. You could just drive past our lovely church, go ooh and ah, but say, well, there's no community here. Well, there is. It's wonderful, and they form community in creative ways, even though they're not living smack dab against each other. All the little tiny communities and then all the farms, and it's quite wonderful. So we haven't had
Wow.
any activities or anything online particularly. You asked about opening up. My wardens and myself are just in the process of looking at the documentation and then trying to set up a meeting. We're gonna have to do it in person, distanced. Virtually is tricky for all of us. So we're going to do that and go through the document and get everything on board so that we can have our first service together in September. And we're very much looking forward to that. So that's where we are at the moment. So I mentioned that behind me here are tomato plants, and those are from Kathy and Gord Wilson, because that was something else that Kathy said early in the spring is I have a whole lot of beefsteak tomato seedlings if anybody wants them. And so I kept hearing about all the people that had gone for seedlings. So I think we need to share our stories of growing Kathy's tomatoes in our own yards when we all get back together.
Oh, Mark, that is so beautiful and so encouraging to hear all the creative ways that you're keeping in touch with a sort of a far-flung and not very well, tech-savvy community. So much today seems to be all about technology. That's all we hear.
Well, between the tech, not being tech savvy and not having consistent internet connection in the country, it's sometimes difficult. So so they're managing. We have one of our parishioners who every week prints off the bulletin for St. John's service and delivers it to a few people in the parish. And I've thanked him profoundly for that ministry, which it is, to do that. And he connects with those people. So that it's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So it sounds like everybody's doing as well as can possibly be expected and even better.
I think so. I think we're doing quite well. Yeah, yeah. And
Good.
so I just wanted to sort of give a heads up about the weeks that I'm preaching on the 9th and the 16th of August. So Perrytown folks, tune in, please. That you do anyway. But the Old Testament readings for those 2 weeks are one of my favorite stories, and I think a favorite story from the Old Testament, and that is the story of Joseph and his wonderful coat. The problem is that on the 9th of August, we will hear the very beginning of the story, and on the 16th, we'll hear the very end. So my suggestion is, get out your CD or your DVD of Joseph and His Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and have a look and or listen to that, or get your Bible out and read through the story again, because there's a lot of stuff in the middle. And I may refer to it and fill in a few gaps, but it would save a lot of preaching time if I didn't have to retell the whole story. So just a warning. I hate that when the lectionary has us breaking it and you lose all the stuff in the middle, but maybe it does encourage us to go back to our Bibles more than we often do. So
that's for sure.
Just a heads up there. Yeah.
That sounds really exciting, Mark, and gets everybody to come for 2 services to make sure they get the whole thing.
Get the whole thing, yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It's just wonderful to speak with you. I wish I could be sitting in the garden with you to have this conversation. I'm indoors, which is not nearly as much fun as the breeze I can see moving the trees behind you.
Yeah. It's quite lovely out here this morning. Yes. Yeah. I have a lovely home I bought when I retired here in Port Hope, and it's got just the right size yard for me, enough garden to keep me amused and not overwhelmed. A lovely deck area and a lovely patio where I am right now. I've got, I don't know how many pots, I lost count on those a long time ago, and some garden as well. And so it's a very lovely spot to be. If I ever get down a little bit about this whole situation of being stuck at home most of the time, I just count my blessings and look around my yard and go, oh no, you've got very little to complain about. So it really is quite lovely. So
that's just wonderful. So glad to hear it. Thank you so much for joining us today in Church Chat. It's been really a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about what's going on. Father Jesse, as we said, is on vacation. He'll be returning on the 17th of August. And until that time, we have the pleasure of having several guest speakers such as yourself. And it's really a joy to be able to enjoy that. And I hope you'll come back again to preach sooner again. So we'll urge Father Jesse to make that happen. Thank you so much, Marg.
Good. Thanks, Laurie. Good to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.